What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Unrefined Project. I'm David. This is Travis, Pac-Man behind the cameras over there. Today we are going to discuss the Russia-Ukraine conflict, China, and digital currency. And most importantly, are we living in a simulation?
High and healthy.
High and healthy. All right, everybody. So first and foremost, Ukraine, Russia. It's all over the news.
It's what everyone's talking about right now.
Absolutely.
I don't really want to spend a lot of time on it, but I do think a lot of interesting things are happening right now. First, we'll go into just a little bit of background. I'm being completely honest when I say this. I was approached a couple times this week, asked my opinion on the whole situation. I'm pretty ignorant with the history. So I wanted to do a little bit of research before I spoke about any of our potential obligations as far as our country is concerned. And we found out a few interesting things. So Soviet Union fell in 1991.
Correct.
Ukraine was one of the first ones to gain independence from the USSR, and it was actually kind of a bit of a tipping point as to whether or not the USSR was actually going to be able to come back together. It was kind of a linchpin, if you will. That led into a couple of agreements as far as what our country is going to do for Ukraine. You were saying something about the Clinton initiative. What was that called?
The Clinton initiative. Oh, in 1994, yes. What happened is Ukraine actually signed a peace. It was supposed to be a peace treaty with Russia, United States, and some other European countries to denuclearize. So they've basically given up all their nuclear weapons in 1994, and now seems like a good time to actually have them.
So they had, a chunk of the nuclear arsenal from the USSR, about a third, 1,700. You can look it on Wikipedia, but they were talking about how a lot of that stockpile was actually coming to its expiration date. Right, it was starting to become obsolete. So They were trying to figure out what to do with this, and I think it was more of a waste management deal that we gave them to kind of dismantle.
Yeah, but they also said that they will not be building anymore. They will not use them. They will not have a stockpile of nuclear weapons. They basically completely wiped out everything. Right?
They also stopped their nuclear program altogether. So it didn't allow them to have the precursory parts for nuclear weapons either. I think that was kind of
after Chernobyl, right? I would have stopped.
And when was Chernobyl again?
It was late 80s, early 90s, I thought.
Okay.
It was right before, I think a couple years before the collapse of the USSR.
So it was still Soviet Union.
Yes.
When it happened. Interesting. Okay.
And since the state run, they used, crappy products for the highest price, right? It's government run at that point.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot of that has changed over the last 50 or 60 years. But a lot of this was all based on expansion of NATO, right?
Yes. They
at that time, there was an agreement with the UK, the United States, Ukraine, and I believe Russia.
I don't think that Ukraine was really involved in that. I think it was more than that. They didn't want, it was East Germany that they were fighting over when Gorbachev was around, right? That was the part that started this whole thing. It was actually East Germany, and they were going to bring Germany into, they weren't going to bring Germany into NATO, but what happened is I don't know how to explain it for that. It's a stupid conflict. It's dumb. It makes no sense to me what NATO even does, right? And we've been pushing NATO farther and farther to the east. Russia does not like that. Russia wants to be independent from the West.
Well,
right? Western culture is not their culture. That's just plain and simple. I get it.
I think NATO alliances have expanded over the years. Actually, we have a visual. If we could go to the NATO map quickly. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so let's take a look here.
So, the original countries in NATO, when it was created in 1949, you can see in black here. Everything that's grayed out is not a NATO participant. The one that you can see there in between Poland and
That's
Ukraine
Belarus.
is Belarus, which is important.
Which they're pretty much in bed with Russia, as far as I know of.
But do you notice that
I've
Crimea is also in gray, i.e., not participating in NATO?
Correct, and that's because Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine.
So, you can kind of see the progression of these things, right? As former USSR nations started coming underneath a NATO agreement, you can see its ever marching progress to the east towards Russia. So,
I like how they use pink for Ukraine.
now also Georgia is down there in intensified dialogue, I believe. I can't really see that, but yeah, the pink ones are basically what Russia's upset
Ukraine
about now.
has tried to join NATO before. They've done their application and so forth. Actually, I think it came out to Germany's decision to do that, and they said no. I think it was Germany and maybe one other country that said no to having Ukraine come into NATO. And that's because, Ukraine has always had their ups and downs with politics. It's a very corrupt area, very corrupt place. I think they're better off now with President Zelensky. He seems to not want to be in Russia's pocket, a pawn for Russia, right? They've had a lot of Russian pawns in as president for Ukraine, and NATO knows this. They don't want that, right? Because then that brings Russia into the table. They know what's going on. They can see what's going on. There's a NATO, the military, everything like that. They didn't want Russia being part of NATO. Well, if all the the presidents that Russia's planted in Ukraine were plants from Russia, why would you want them in NATO, right? So that makes sense why they said no. But nowadays, I don't understand. I don't even know what NATO's doing anymore. What's the point of it?
It's kind of like the ATF
or the UN. It makes no sense to me.
They're just old, institutions that were stood up for a specific reason, and that reason is no longer around.
No, absolutely not.
So there's really no justification for their existence besides their own actions. That's what the ATF does. The ATF was created to stop illegal liquor running in the South during Prohibition. And speaking of Prohibition, we were able to actually go about that the right way and amend the Constitution to prohibit alcohol. And then we decided that was such a bad idea.
Speaking of alcohol, today we're trying Creek Rye. Don't know if you guys care. It's pretty good.
Yeah, well,
real smooth. Whatever. We're gonna try a new one every week. See how it goes.
There's plenty of that out there. Yeah. Anyway, the whole point of me bringing that up is the ATF no longer had a justification for existence after Prohibition was done, right? Yet here we are 60, 80 years later, and we still have this entity in existence that doesn't really do anything, right? So I think
they just go after firearm owners and stuff like that, and firearms and firearm dealers and stuff like that. They don't actually go after. What's there to go after for alcohol? Tax?
Well, I mean,
tobacco tax.
There are certain states that limit hours that you can purchase, et cetera, but that's that's state rights.
All right, that can be another topic. That'd be a great topic.
The point of bringing that up is there are a few of these examples in existence where we have entities or programs that were set up to accomplish a certain task. And once that task was completed or mission accomplished, now we have nothing else to do and we're still here, right? So, there has been a big push towards NATO, and I also think it's a little hypocritical of people to not compare this to a Cuban Missile Crisis situation. For a second, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but for a second, put yourself in the position of Russia and watch someone who's not you get closer and closer and start installing some weaponry. You don't necessarily know.
Oh
what
yeah,
weaponry
of course.
is.
They don't like NATO pushing farther and farther east, which they honestly shouldn't be. What's the point, And Putin, I know it. He wants the USSR back. It's a 100-year anniversary of the beginning of the USSR. It's in his benefit to get back to the roots, basically. There's a lot of nostalgia in there.
So wait, do you think he's going further?
I think once he's basically got Belarus in his pocket, right? Or Belarus. No, it's Belarus. He's got them in his pocket. He takes Ukraine.
From Belarus.
So he takes Ukraine. Once he takes Ukraine, what's to stop him from keep going over farther west. I mean, other than all the other outlying countries around there are NATO countries.
Well,
right?
the second he invades a NATO country, it's different, right? Ukraine is not in NATO yet. There aren't obligations to
I don't think they're going to be.
Ukraine.
I don't think if this goes through the way Russia wants it, they'll be back in charge of Ukraine pretty soon, under the guise of democracy and under their own freedoms and stuff like that. I just don't think it's gonna.
So what about Poland, for example?
What about Poland?
Poland's a NATO country. They actually just created their own version of the Second Amendment in their country recently.
Yeah, I don't know if you go after Poland or anything like that, but
Poland was in the USSR.
During the USSR, their main moneymaker, the breadbasket was Ukraine, right? It was a huge land, very beautiful land. Apparently, I've never seen it. Don't really want to see it, especially right now.
Wow.
A lot of resources.
Oh, you mean you don't want a vacation there like Joy Reid?
Yeah.
So bummed about not being able to go to Italy because of the Ukraine conflict.
Stupid people.
Yeah, I don't pretend to know a lot about these situations. All I know is 30 years of United States foreign policy has been one big failure after another.
Well,
I think there's a reason why we're meddling over there in the first place. There's a reason why Burisma and Hunter Biden happened, and the whole Ukraine, Russia, Uranium One with all of these people. I mean, we've had relations with government for a long time in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And it has been a bit of a playground for elite to hide money, to use bank accounts, and I think some 4 people in our government right now all have children that work for Ukrainian oil companies.
I'm sure they do.
Hunter Biden being one of them.
I'm sure they do. And the whole oil thing, that brings up another point. Russia still produces 30% of Europe's oil, natural gas and oil, right? We're still buying from Russia.
Yeah, well,
natural gas and oil. 4 years ago, we weren't. We were totally energy independent. We were exporting more oil and gas than we could use, right? Until policies change. New president comes along, policies change, obviously. And now we're no longer energy independent. So when you see the gas prices going up and they say, oh, you can't blame the president. Yeah, you kind of can, right?
You can blame his policies.
You can blame the policies that they
whether
enacted.
it's actually him coming up with the policies or not.
No, he's just a puppet. Story. He's just a puppet. But
so, you have to ask yourself why, though. Like, why were those policies created in the first place? What motive would a leader of the United States have to not only take away our own potential for independence when it comes to fossil fuels, oil, natural gas? You're also now purchasing it from a country halfway around the world that you just spent the last 4.5 years demonizing to your own citizenry.
Yeah.
It's not like you can say to people who voted for you a year and a half ago when you were screaming at the top of your lungs about Russiagate to now all of a sudden believe that, Russia's the good guy and we should continue to buy their products from them while simultaneously saying that they're the bad guy because they just invaded Ukraine.
Well, so Biden's put on some pretty weak sanctions. He really has. Weak. It doesn't matter. Russia doesn't care about him. Putin could care less. I guarantee you he's not sweating over it, right? The sanctions that he's put in place. But he didn't in place a sanction on gas, oil.
Yeah.
They did not remove them. They didn't put a sanction on SWIFT, which for anybody that doesn't know, SWIFT is an interbanking agency, worldwide banking agency, basically.
So I have the acronym.
Right?
It's Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication.
Which you would think that would be one of the ones they go after to cut the money out of Russia, right? Cut funds trading through Russia.
Is China part of SWIFT?
China is part of SWIFT. China is a major stakeholder in SWIFT. So, that'll lead us down the rabbit hole later with China and digital currencies.
Interesting.
For now, let's kind of stick to this whole Biden is putting us in a bad place. And you notice I haven't called him Poopy Pants one time this episode. I'm sure I will. Oh, I guess I just did.
Yeah,
so President Poopy Pants.
That's right.
The PPP.
Bo Jiden.
But this brings up a lot of things. Should we be there helping? Should we do anything about it? Do we need to? I mean, Ukraine is a pretty corrupt country all on its own.
It's corrupt
Was it
because
getting
of
better?
politicians from our
Yes.
country.
It was corrupt because politicians from Russia. Is it getting better? We don't know. We don't live there. We don't know that much about like the day-to-days around there. I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than it seems to be. But all the pictures that we've seen of the bombings, the tank rolling over that car, which is a horrible video. The guy survived. Should we do something as a pure humanitarian care about your fellow man, whether he's different nationality, different ethnicity? Should we do something?
No,
Why?
because it is not our job to police the world. It is not our duty or obligation to send assets, spend taxpayer revenue, and most importantly, allow our citizens to die.
So you're saying that if you were at school and you saw a kid being bullied, you wouldn't do anything?
That's different.
How's that
Where is
different?
that school? Is the school in Ukraine?
No, how's that different though? Just in general in a school. I'm just curious.
A school is in my country, presumably. It's in my community. It's in my neighborhood.
We're watching a much larger country invade a smaller country for their own personal reasons, unprovoked, is what we've heard so far, right? Why do we not do anything about it?
Because
Why do
it's
we
not
not
a problem.
Why do we not
It says
sanction the
nowhere-
oils, the gas?
We already
Hit 'em
tried.
where-
We
hit
already
'em in the
tried
pocketbook.
sanctions. We already tried.
No,
sanctions.
they're trying sanctions of like stupid little ones that even Biden said. Even he said they're not going to work. It's going to take a month or two. Tell that to the people dying right now on the street.
So why even do it then?
I don't know.
Sanctions are an act of war.
He should sanction stuff that's going to hit him where it hurts, right? I know the oil and gas prices here would go up, obviously, because some of our resources come from there.
Why? Why is
Because
it-
we are
why-
no longer energy independent because of the policies Mr. Poopy Pants
How
has
does it
brought up.
make Americans' lives better purchasing oil halfway around the world? Okay, we're getting it at a higher price because we have to pay for the shipping. So now
Correct.
you're putting it on a tank or ship and you're sending it halfway across the world.
using more oil and gas to send it halfway across the world.
Biggest polluters in the planet, cargo ships. You want to save the planet, stop buying shit on Amazon from China.
Yeah.
Easily enough, right? But that's a whole other topic where somehow along the line they sold the line of goods to people saying that they that it's cheaper and we are better for it to get products from halfway around the world instead of
We're
promoting doing things in our own backyard.
that's
to lift up our own
that's
community.
That's a whole nother topic actually. That one of these days I'd love to get into. Why are we not building here? I get the prices are higher. I get the labor cost is higher, but I'd gladly pay more for a phone
We have a higher standard of living.
that was built here in the United States. I would.
We have a higher standard of living. The reason things are so expensive is because of the way that we live. It's also, a little early in the topic, but we enjoy a privilege that not many people are aware of. We are the one and only world reserve currency. The United States petrodollar is used in like 80% of the global transactions.
For now.
That number's getting less and less.
That'll bring us into digital currency in China later.
But there's a reason that we can kind of throw our weight around, our real weight around, right? Because we're
Well,
fat,
the dollar,
slob Americans.
so the dollar is no longer based on gold, right? The gold standard disappeared a long time ago. It's based more on the price of oil.
Our dollar used to be pegged to the gold standard as well as certain commodities. People could measure our currency through the price of oil for a long time. They at least were able to use that as a certain kind of a measure or a precedent, right?
Yeah.
But the further we go along in this currency paradigm that we're in, the more the world is starting to wake up and realize that they got the short end of the deal.
Yeah.
We used to be the world's largest creditor nation. We used to accredit other countries' fiat and means.
And now look how much debt we're in.
And now we're the world's biggest debtor, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. The debt and death paradigm that was created in 1913 with the Federal Reserve. I, as an American, am not responsible for my government and the decisions that they have made in Ukraine since 1991. I, as an American, have no business attempting to tell other countries how they should be treating their citizens when we have such a horrible track record back at home. Our foreign policy is a fucking disaster.
Foreign policy is an absolute disaster.
But it just
doesn't make any sense why we go into these countries. We do what we do when we have no business there other than commodities, right? Wherever there's oil, we go in.
Yeah,
when we have enough, more than enough here.
Libya,
yeah.
Gaddafi, right? Yep. They were talking about gas attacks in Syria, when in reality, these leaders, whether or not they were, horrible to their citizenry, human right violations, etc., we use certain excuses to go into these countries, destabilize the leaders because they wanted to start trading their oil in gold. They didn't want to use the U.S. dollar. They didn't want to, we also struck a deal with Saudi Arabia and created OPEC to give them defense and weapons, and in return, we prevented them from selling their oil in anything but the U.S. dollar. That is a major driving factor to our foreign policy. It's interventionism. It's like Tulsi Gabbard always says, that we're doing these regime change wars. That is very well what we did in Ukraine.
Speaking of Tulsi Gabbard, I really wish some of her policies were a little different. I think she'd be a killer. She just needs killer Republican or libertarian. I really do. She'd be great on the stage for the not the opposite side, but a different side, right?
She just needs a yin to her yang.
Yeah.
And not
Andrew Yang.
But the idea of a Rand Paul.
All right, let's keep this moving with the Ukraine thing. Let's get through this thing.
So you said
everybody's hearing about it on the news.
Well,
all the time.
Hold on now. You said something that I am finding very interesting. Okay, we've all been watching videos on our TikTok. It's very, very sad day.
I don't have TikTok.
When we're listening to, you know what I mean. It's being reshared on the book face and the instas of the grams and all that stuff, right? So there have been a plethora of videos and certain footage that have been coming out of these last couple of days in Ukraine. And one of the first ones that I got a little excited about was this story or pilot called The Ghost of Kiev.
Yes.
Supposed ace who had shot down like 3 or 4 Russian.
I thought it was like 8.
Russian MiGs. It was up to like 6.
Yeah, the number's going to keep climbing. Now he's got 200. Yeah.
So I started like kind of paying attention to this because this is typically what, nations will do when they're in conflicts or war with each other. They'll try and like
top one another.
Well, they'll try and glorify or create a hero out of somebody, right? So come to find out a day or two after the video made its rounds that it's actually a video game. It's a modern military
training exercise,
simulation video game of a CRAM that shoots the rockets out of the sky. Yeah, it was directly connected to a video game.
I'm sure a lot of it's real. Some of it's probably over exaggerated. But there's a lot that is real. That tank running over that car, that was real. Those guys saving the guy out of the car, that was real.
How do you know when that was from, though?
You don't.
That could have been, we had that guy freak out in San Diego and steal the tank.
That was a Russian tank, and that was Ukrainian. It was a Ukrainian road. Right?
Russian tanks are getting abandoned all over the place.
I don't know, but that tank was pretty quick. Did you see how fast it did that?
Definitely like
I wish we can bring that video up. It's a sad video. I don't want to show anybody, but the good news is the guy did survive.
We don't know if he survived. He was
still alive. He just seemed a little dazed, but he was up and
I don't know. Just
kind of moving around like, hey, what's going on here?
I think it's very important to take a step back, and I know everything is being shoved in our face right now. I saw the biggest Ukrainian flag I have ever seen in my entire life draped over one of the over ramps on the highway on the way to come here. It was huge. I'm talking like 100 feet wide.
Oh, really?
I never saw people out there with the United States flag that big, right?
What though? If we were to do it correctly, we wouldn't get involved, but we could stop it.
How do you stop something without getting involved?
No, without getting physically involved, without sending our troops over there to fight for, to needlessly kill our troops. We can stop it. It's very simple. Cut them off. Cut off anything that matters to them.
It's almost like you're talking about,
unfortunately,
to stop doing business with people that you don't...
Stop doing business with Russia right now.
China.
NASA, the International Space Station, they just came out yesterday and said, hey, we're not going to stop. We're still going to deal with Russia. I mean, there's two Russians, a couple Americans, and I think another country up in the International Space Station right now. They said, oh, we're not going to stop dealing with Russia. Let's see, F1 racing. They said, okay, we're not going to do our race in Russia. But they haven't refunded the money for the tickets yet because it's still open-ended. We say it now, but maybe later, once Ukraine has fallen, Russia's fine, we go back to it. Right? It's just a game they've been playing for so long, and it's annoying that we have a president right now that will not stand up for human life. He does not. He doesn't care. It's either that Russia's got a lot on him or Ukraine's got something on him. I get that they're sending money and aid, but the easiest thing to do, honestly, in my opinion, is kill all oil shipments from Russia. That put a big hurting on Putin.
The puppets in our government cannot do that. There is a push for a certain agenda that is much bigger than this little land grab that's happening in Ukraine right now. It has a lot to do with, again, our currency and our world reserve currency status.
Yeah.
Did you know that there are only 3 countries in the entire world that doesn't have a central bank? Want to guess which ones?
Which ones?
Russia, Iran, and North Korea.
Yeah.
The only ones that don't have a central bank. Okay. Now, do you think that our banksters, are funding Ukraine?
I thought that was a guy that spray paints. Oh, that's Banksy. Never mind.
Banksy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's...
and nobody knows who that guy is either.
No, he's still pretty prevalent. Remember he did that like stealing, vanishing painting after some guy dropped like $3 or $4 million on it? That was pretty cool. Or it like exploded or something. No, there's no way that we would be sending all these weapons and all these funding to Ukraine if it wasn't pushing the initiative of one world currency, central, digital currency, right?
That's actually a good segue into China and digital currency right now, if you want to jump in on that.
That's where they're going. They're trying to do social credit scores in the guise of a vax passport. Then they're also attempting to do away with a lot of cash, right? That was one of the big narratives that was pushed for 2 years was cash is dirty.
Yeah.
Go to a cashless society, all these tap to pay stuff that we have now where we don't even come in contact with that kind of stuff. I mean, that's all a giant push to be able to put us all in one pool and then allow a country like Canada to do what they just did, which they declared their emergency act for 9 days. They said that it was to clear the streets and get all the border crossings open, but they were all open within 24 hours of the declaration. In reality, they were able to seize control over the banks.
Yeah.
They were able to seize control over assets. They were able to freeze bank accounts.
And look at how easy it was. Next little scuffle.
You scare
right back at it. Right back at it.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now the emergency acts have been ended after 9 days. What stayed? The country still has the federal government of Canada still has the ability to freeze your assets now.
Yep. Even after they got rid of the Emergencies Act, yes.
They got what they wanted.
Oh, absolutely.
The Emergency Act was all just a guise.
Don't get me started on what countries get what they want when they do stupid things.
It's the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but you really actually got something kind of thing. But
all right, well that's pretty much all I got on Russia, Ukraine. I honestly believe we could do more without actually going in. I can totally see why you don't think we should be involved at all, right? At all. Just leave them to their own.
It's none of our business. We can't even.
It is none of our business, but it's as a human, I don't want to see it. What do you want me to do? Turn the TV off, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty sad.
They're sensationalizing it for a reason. And it's also very interesting.
I get why they're sensationalizing it, right? Pull at your heartstrings. But when there is fellow humans dying because a country is being greedy, there's something somebody should do
Yeah,
about
but
it, right? I don't think we should go in there guns a-blazing, troops everywhere. I think we should go in there smartly, which I don't think we can do under this president, and put the correct sanctions. Like I said, sanctions. Put the correct ones on.
You don't have to put boots on the ground to do sanctions.
But the problem with the sanctions is I don't think China will let them. I don't think China. I think China will not let us do that. I think if we were to say, hey, we're going to put sanctions on oil and gas, and we're going to start producing more here in the United States, which would be smart. That would probably be the smartest thing to do. Come back to energy independence like we were just 2 years ago. We were energy independent. We were exporting so much. Right?
His actions on the first day was to cancel the Keystone Pipeline.
Correct. Cancel the Keystone Pipeline, which the Keystone Pipeline, yeah, I get it. It was crap oil being sent from Canada to Mexico, but it was still here. It was cheaper. It was used for other stuff. You know, it was jobs. He stopped all new fracking on federal land. I don't know if he's stopped all fracking on federal land yet, but fracking is probably the safest, most energy efficient way to get natural gas right now. Natural gas. You want to talk about nuclear? Nuclear is by far the cleanest energy source we have right now. That is renewable, easy to make. You know, an entire lifetime of energy would fit in my tea-up cup right here.
You're going to get
my entire life would fit in here. The energy I use would fit in this cup. I get it. There's 330 million people in this country. That's a lot of cups, right? 330 million.
You're going to get a lot of pushback with what you just said.
What, with nuclear?
Nuclear and natural gas fracking, right?
Give me it. I don't care. Give me as much pushback as you can give me. Whether it's somebody commenting on here or something like that. Natural gas is cleaner than oil. Natural gas or oil is still cleaner than burning coal. Coal's cleaner than burning wood. We've made this progression. We're not there yet with renewables.
No.
We have solar panels on our house. We have more than enough solar panels. We went overkill, so we don't pay anything for electricity, right? But they still charge us their service fees and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to renewables, if the sun ain't shining, we're not producing. We're still using them.
The wind's not blowing.
Right? And the only other option would be batteries. We're not quite there yet.
You could do hydro if you had a stream.
Hydroelectric. Yeah, that would work too. But I think nuclear is the cleanest, safest way to do it now. We have had meltdowns, but you've got to look at them. Chernobyl, cheap equipment used. It was a Soviet state at the time, so it was socialism.
They took Chernobyl back over, yeah?
They did take Chernobyl, yeah. They just took a couple
days
ago,
right?
That.
Is he gonna scrape the bottom of the reactors? And
I don't know. There's still some parts of Chernobyl that you can't. You're not supposed to spend any time in.
Supposedly there were sustained ground fights.
Jeremy Wade did on River Monsters. It was pretty neat, but he had a Geiger counter with him the whole time.
Well, so I was listening to some interesting commentary on it yesterday, and they were talking about how people were reporting spikes in the nuclear levels, right? Radioactive levels. Yep. And they were just talking about something as small as a soldier walking through the dust, because it's attached inside the dust particles, and when the dust gets kicked up in the air, those Geiger counters go off, right? So if you have tanks and vehicles and men running around,
you're sending a bunch of it out,
into the air, right?
I mean, it's been over 30 years, so I think 30 years, yeah. About
91 is when it fell, so if it happened in
that's when the USSR fell. I think it was 89. I don't remember what year it was. Yeah. We watched that movie was pretty good. That movie documentary thing. That was actually a really good. Okay, this is what happened. This is how it happened. Russia didn't like that we made that movie, but it happened, right? And you can see that
Kim Jong-un didn't like.
This is all just proof that a socialist state does not work.
Well,
they've all collapsed.
They just didn't do it right.
Yeah. Keep saying that, right? Everybody says, "Hey, they didn't do it." Can. Human nature says no, right? Human nature is a lot worse than most people think. You know what? If everybody was a nice person and everybody did everything selflessly and was really friendly and stuff like that, I bet you it would work.
There's no such thing as a selfless act.
There is no such thing as a selfless act. I completely agree with that, because even when you think you're doing a selfless act, it makes you feel good. That's still selfish, right? Nobody's ever said, I'm going to cut off my finger
for love.
For love. Yeah. It's that's not how it works, right? But I don't think Russia is big enough to do what they're doing, but I do think China is backing them.
Yeah, that much is clear. They
100%.
they started trading their commodities in their own currencies. They started selling and buying oil.
They started doing
in
that.
The yuan and the ruble.
They started doing that during COVID when we started putting sanctions on things when they were taking over Hong Kong. COVID was a huge win for China. Not talking about the people dead. That's a sad thing right there by itself. I'm not, trying to justify anybody's death, right? That was horrible. A lot of people died. Sad. China got what they wanted. China got Hong Kong, started trading in
They don't have
yuan.
Hong Kong yet.
They pretty much do.
Yet.
Right?
Hear Hong Kong now or be Hong Kong later.
They've captured Hong Kong, and next.
Sorry, we won't be airing on Disney Plus now.
No,
for
we
that,
won't.
for that statement. Sorry.
No. But we also don't have slave Uyghur labor camps either. But they have they took Hong Kong. Right, there's still some resistance there, but they're under China's rule. Right, even though they were supposed to be free after the rule of the British was over, they signed it back over saying, "Hey, you guys just let them be a free country, a free nation." That only lasts a little bit. China has ambitions as well as Russia. China's next ambition is what's scary.
What?
Taiwan.
Yeah.
Taiwan is where most of our electronics, everything we've known as electronics, is made mostly in Taiwan. All our chips, chip manufacturing, all our machines that a lot of Americans own.
So do you feel that
chip manufacturing is made in Taiwan? There's a lot of intellectual property over there that belongs to Taiwan and the United States. They're very close partners in this, and a lot of the tech we're using right now, everything from the microphone in this, the chip in this microphone, to the soundboard, to the video switcher, all that stuff is made in Taiwan.
Yeah,
because it is cheaper over there. Labor rates are cheaper, right? Products are cheaper. It doesn't mean they have all the necessary stuff to build it, right? They don't have all the parts to build it. They get them from all over the place, right? Yeah.
Globally sourced, made in fill in the blank.
Yeah, they're sourced from all over the place, like cobalt and gold and platinum and palladium. They're sourced from all over the place, but they're all brought to Taiwan. Taiwan does make the chips. They sell them to us for a reasonable price. We take them. We ship them off to Russia or to China. China makes all our stuff for us and then sells it back to us. So China's making a killing off of us by far, right? So I didn't agree with Trump when he comes in and says, hey, we want to put tariffs on all this and this and this. I did not agree with that. I don't think there should be any tariffs on it. I think we need to stop talking all that shit, bring it in-house.
Tariffs are an act of war as well.
Tariffs are a tax on the buyer, right? Because if you tariff, say that cup right there, you bought it from China. Well, I'm going to put a tariff on it. It's going to cost you $20 more to send that cup over to the United States now.
Oh, you mean this beautiful cup right here?
Right. So the Americans, we're consumers. We're still going to buy that cup. We're just going to pay $20 more for it. So does it really hurt China? Yeah, because less people will be willing to buy it.
In name only.
And yeah, but it could hurt them a little bit with exports, but it's a tax on.
You know what hurts them a lot more?
Hmm.
Stop doing business with them. Remove your energy.
But we can't. We don't have the infrastructure here. We haven't had it
Bullshit.
For years. We don't have the capabilities we used to have in World War II. We do not have the capabilities here. We farmed them overseas through different stupid policies from stupid presidents that we've had over the years. We've shipped them out. And now look, we're stuck in this predicament where we've got an island off the coast of China that China wants because it's a powerhouse on the globe. On this big rock we're on, Taiwan is a powerhouse for electronics, intellectual property for electronics. China wants it.
Do you feel the same urge to defend Taiwan as you do to defend Ukraine?
I think Taiwan should be defended with boots on ground.
Why?
I think because Taiwan is a close ally of the United States. So not saying that we own all the equipment there, but there is a lot of American equipment.
Get it out.
Building these. They should. Absolutely. I 100% agree. Get all that shit out of Taiwan because China's going to take it. Right? Whether it happens now or 10 years from now, whether it happens in 10 minutes, we don't know. And that's the worst possible thing you can think of because now we're dependent on China.
We've been dependent on China for a long time.
Yeah, for our cheap goods.
Look at what happened
for our cheap goods.
Look at what happened with medical supplies and masks and shit during COVID. That wasn't cheap.
Antibiotics.
3M literally got shut down. Yeah. They had all of their products seized, and they were never able to come here.
Look at the antibiotics. Antibiotics are mostly made in China. You know, that's kind of scary. Why are we not making them here? I get it. It's going to take us a few years, though, right, to get that infrastructure. Say tomorrow you want to start a startup chip company. You want to start manufacturing electrical chips here. Any IC chips, anything like that. That takes years. That takes a lot of money, a lot of capital, a lot of equipment. We, for some reason, got it started over there. It propped up their economy very well. They're doing pretty good over in Taiwan because of that.
Did it help prop up our economy?
No. It did at first. It did at first because now we were able to buy the goods we designed for much cheaper. Right, at first. When there's conflict between nations, it does not help us. It makes it worse for us. Right?
We cannot control whether or not other nations are going to have conflicts. Again, we're not,
absolutely.
We're not like we're not the schoolhouse playground monitor where we stop people.
It's a good whiskey, by the way.
Getting into fights.
This is.
It's
got a nice little bite to it.
There's nowhere in our Constitution that says that we are obligated morally, obligated physically to do anything to defend anyone else's borders besides our own.
And we don't even do that.
And again, we can't even
do
that.
that.
Where do we get the goal to run around and tell people how
we take care of our border on the north, though. We won't let them come in. You know, if they're claiming asylum from the shit that Justin Trudeau or Justin Castro's been doing lately, we won't let them come in, right?
I mean, if someone wanted to cross the border illegally from Canada to the United States, I'm sure it would be just as easy as it is on the south.
Yeah. I
There's
think
not a wall.
I think they're too nice and they follow the rules. So
not
way
yet.
too much, right?
I'm so
like
done.
I said last week, I think they follow the rules. They're nice. They're very calm, collected.
You can't blanket statement like that. There's millions of people that live in Canada.
No,
they're
of course.
All
There's
nice.
30 million,
Canada
a tenth of the population, right? I'm sure there's
crime.
normal people. Have you seen what's that one show? Steve at work watches it all the time. It's pretty funny. It's just a bunch of basically redneck hicks up in Canada sitting around.
Oh, are you talking about Trailer Park Boys?
No, it's different. I forget it. It's something Kenny or something like that.
You have Trailer Park Boys and
Letterkenny. That's the one.
Letterkenny, never heard of it.
It's a Canadian show. It's a bunch of redneck boys up in Canada. It's pretty good, actually. It's pretty funny.
I watched some Canadians on YouTube that like to drive 4-wheelers and side by sides on snowy, trails and rivers. But
yeah.
It's either that or Red Green Show. Remember the Red Green Show?
Oh, I love the Red Green Show. Yeah, my dad used to watch it, and I'd watch it with him. It was pretty funny. Can't duck it. Fuck it.
That was a good show.
Made the gull wing door with the duct tape. That was beautiful with an axe and some duct tape.
Yeah, you can pretty much fix anything with duct tape. But
I think there needs to be a reckoning here in the United States of we need to start building here. We need to take infrastructure out of these countries. I know it's going to hurt Taiwan. It's going to hurt us for a while because it's going to cost a lot more for certain things because we have minimum wage here in the United States.
Isn't that the cost of being a patriot, though?
That is the cost of being a patriot. And you know what?
Bojan?
If you gave me something that said made in America, I would pay more for it. Right? 100% made in America. I'm not talking about, I had a job when I was younger doing building carpet tools, right? Flooring tools. everything that we got came from China. It was assembled here in the United States. We had our own little assembly stations. I built it. So we made in America stickers on it. But was it really?
Well, again, a lot of the stuff is globally sourced, right? When you start asking about what the most American-made vehicle is, it's no longer a Chevy or a Ford. It's like a Subaru.
No, there's a lot of stuff
Toyota
sourced
right?
from other places. You know what I mean? Look
But
at Dodge. Dodge is owned by Stellantis now, which was Fiat. Now it's Stellantis. That's a company from Holland, I think.
yeah,
So
it's nothing is made here anymore.
No,
and I
no, absolutely
refuse
not.
to believe the narrative that we are better off for having other countries make the goods and services that we depend on abroad.
And on paper, that looks good. Okay, look at you make us this product. We buy this product back from you for cheaper.
But how does that work in a
That looks
logistical
okay.
standpoint?
I mean, that looks okay, right? Because they're just sending over so much at a time, right? Logistics is easy.
But it costs X amount
It's still cheaper.
to go X amount of distance.
It's still cheaper, but we're also putting all of our faith in people that don't think like us, people that don't act like us, people that don't have as free of a spirit as Americans do. And I'm talking every race here now. We are free Americans. That's the way we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be free and we're supposed to be brave.
We
right?
are less and less free every day.
We're less and less free. COVID showed us that. We're less and less brave. This Russia-Ukraine thing's showing us that. We've got a president that won't just pull the trigger, tell the American people, look, we're going to get our fracking back up. We're going to get this going, but we're not going to buy oil from Russia. We're going to put sanctions on Russia, and it's going to hurt the pocketbook for a couple months until we get our operation back up and running to the way they had it under Orange Man.
Dude, we funded...
That is the way to do it.
We funded pipeline projects in Russia.
What was that? Not the Keystone. Keystone was here. What was the other one?
There's
I forget the other one.
Giant pipe.
Apparently
pipeline.
it's stopped, right? The one from Russia to China. Or not China, from Russia to Germany.
4 days after the Keystone pipeline was kaput, was kiboshed.
Yeah, we
Russia
okayed that
Russia
pipeline
started
from
building
Russia to Germany. Yeah, I know. It's Pac-Man. Can you look up the name of that? There was a pipeline that was going from Russia. I think we actually put a stop on it right now, or Germany put a stop. Oh, we're not going to use this pipeline, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, for how long, right? Until this whole Russia-Ukraine thing blows over. Unless Putin really is trying to make the USSR back up again. If that's the case, we're in for a world war.
What he's
with
saying,
Russia, with China, it's going to get messy.
If
that's the case.
If you take him at face value, he's saying that he is merely on a peacekeeping mission to destroy military targets that are...
Who, Putin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a thug.
But again, he's not our nemesis. He's not our thug, right? He's not some threat to our nation inside of our country.
If what I'm saying is true, if he is trying to rebuild the USSR, he won't stop. There's nowhere to stop from there, right? I mean, this is how regimes are created. This is how regimes expand.
I don't believe that he would have to live with the fallout and the devastation as well. Okay,
I think he wants the USSR back, and that's it. I don't think he wants more than that, right? I think they were the last country they were pushing into when they were a Soviet state was Mongolia.
Why did he take Crimea in the first place?
Because it's a perfect landing ground. Put his troops on the opposite side.
What does Crimea have?
Nothing. Corruption.
What is Crimea?
What about it?
It's an island.
Yeah, in Ukraine.
Okay. And what ocean is it on? What sea is it on? What body of water?
It's part of the Indian Ocean, isn't it?
Black.
The Black Sea?
Black Sea. Guess what? The Black Sea is a warm water port.
Yeah.
Okay. What if it's that simple? What if it's the fact that Russia only has 2 ports and they're both cold water ports? They both close half the time of the year. Developed nations, first world nations on this globe have multiple warm water ports.
Yeah.
China, Australia, United States, Mexico. What if it's simply just a logistics game?
Yeah.
That could very well be all that he wants. He could also be saying, "Hey, look, there's a bunch of really nasty shit that the United States have been helping the Ukrainians build up, and they're posturing very offensively.
Yeah.
We would be doing the same thing if we were in Russia's position. The same exact thing. It's what we did during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Unless it's nostalgia for him. Unless it is. If it's nostalgia taking over, I want it back together. This was a perfect time. He remembers it. He was part of it. Yeah, he was in there during that. He was KGB during that, right?
Yeah, but he's too calculated and disciplined to, go on some romantic spree.
You'd be surprised. Nostalgia will get people doing some stupid shit.
Now, the way that these dictators work, the way that these like actual dictatorial countries work, these people aren't concerned about every 4 years. They don't have to, campaign every 2 years for their election cycle.
They just keep moving forward and moving forward and moving forward, and their ambitions sometimes are a little bit bigger than their britches.
We are playing a game every couple of years, and they're playing a game decades long.
Yeah,
it's not the same. We're constantly thinking about policies that one side of the aisle or the other is going to create, and who's going to get credit for it. He doesn't give a shit about any of that. All he cares about is what he thinks is best for Russia. And
all I know is if we stop Russia, and not stop Russia as in going their guns a-blazing, if we just say, listen, you guys are done, stop what you're doing, stop picking on the little guy, that would change China's outlook on us, right? Now, should we pour resources into it? No, I don't think we should. I really don't think we should pour any resources into it other than, hey, you guys can't trade with us anymore. You guys can't trade with the European Union anymore. Stop. If that stops them, great. Well, if it doesn't, they will collapse again.
I don't think we're going to look very good when we start sanctioning a certain country for certain atrocities and we continue to justify other countries on the same world stage.
Yeah. Well, we're going through the new Iran deal, right? Back to that thing. Hey, I'll give you $1 million. I'll give you billions of dollars. Just promise not to make nukes.
It's more nation building. Again, how does any of this benefit the average American who is more in debt now than they've ever been?
It doesn't. We tried to build a nation in Afghanistan for 20 years, over 20 years. And then look what happens when we pull out.
None of that benefited us.
As soon as we pull out, it's gone. Taliban's got it over again. While we're pulling out, the Taliban's like, nope, get out, start bombing shit. That's...
The Taliban didn't have control over our exit. They were brought into places that
Biden had control over the exit.
We abandoned places. Yeah. We left $80 billion worth of equipment that you and I paid for with our taxes.
Yeah.
Now...
because it was too expensive to pull it out. It'd take too long. We didn't have enough time because we promised them we'd be out of there by that time.
Bullshit. We had 20 years. We had 20 years to have our assets out of there. We easily gutted every single military installation, base, forward operating.
We had 5,000 troops there for a long time without conflict, without anything going on. We pull out, boom.
You know what Ukraine is? You want to know what Ukraine is as flat out as I can say it? It's another opportunity for old men to dream up new ways for young men to die. That's all it is. That's
debt. A little harsh.
That's the truth. It's debt.
I don't think there's some old man sitting there saying, "Hey, how can I kill as many young people as possible?" I think there's old men sitting there saying, "Hey, how can we become as wealthy as possible and help move forwards our agenda?" Now, what their agenda is, that's the question. What are they doing? Why are they not doing anything different,
You have to look at the average age of individuals in government.
Yeah, 70s.
Are they our age?
No.
They are generations, decades away from...
And you know what they'll tell you? That's because they got more experience. Experience in what?
Experience in corruption, experience in lining their own pockets, experience in getting rich beyond their wildest dreams on a public... salary that everybody knows how much they make every year.
All right, so if we don't do anything about Ukraine, if we just take a step back, let it fall, don't help whatsoever, like we've said we would help, if we don't do anything, what happens next? What does China see?
Imagine a scenario where instead of putting our energy into offensive strategies halfway around the world, why don't we come back to our own house and clean our own room like Jordan Peterson says?
Yeah, make your bed, right? Make your
Come
bed in
back
the
here
morning.
and
Get
deal.
up, make your bed, clean your room. But what do you see as what's going to happen when a superpower, a big up and coming superpower like China, sees we did nothing to help Ukraine? What happens then?
China is going to China whether or not we do something.
But if they've already seen us pull out of Afghanistan and it was a disaster, they saw us leave people we told we would take care of.
They also saw the leader
Right?
of the free
So-
world take a hard stance on Putin's encroachment in Ukraine, and look what happened.
That's what I'm saying. Where do you think they're going from here?
The idea that people within our nation that are running our government give any two shits about the population within. See, that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem as far as I'm concerned. The Ukrainian population doesn't want this. The people of Russia don't want this. The people in the United States don't want this. The only people that are pushing for this kind of shit is legacy media, war hawks in DC, and governments of countries around the world.
Don't forget Lockheed Martin. They're selling all the weapons, right?
Those are contractors. They have lobbyists to line pockets of politicians in Washington D.C.
Oh, they're making billions off of this right now.
It's all the same.
Millions, billions, whatever you want to say.
Pfizer and Moderna had their year last year. Now we need to pump up Lockheed Martin and Boeing and the other ones. But
well, what I'd like to say is I think on a geopolitical stage, I don't think Russia's a threat. I think it could be easily handled with the right politics. I do think the politics need to be handled better than they are now.
yeah, I just think it's too late. I think it's been decades of horrible.
Captain President Poopy Pants, I said it again, see? Captain President Poopy Pants, he is not the guy, right? If Trump was in office, do you really think this would happen? I don't think this would have happened. I think they'd be like, that guy's a little crazy. I don't know what he'll do, so we'll wait. We'll wait it out. We'll wait it out. We'll wait it out. Because he had that, he had the big red button in front of him. He always talked about his big red button. You know what? I bet you he painted that button orange. I guarantee it, just to match his skin. Oops.
No, he turned it into like a Diet Coke button.
Yeah.
He was like, I want to turn this red button into an announcement every time I want a Diet Coke.
Definitely China. China's getting the orange button.
We're too far down a path of bad decisions to have a good outcome at this point. This kind of interventionism, this kind of push to continue the expansion of these countries, to do this nation building and stuff, isn't a American first agenda, right? And I know
we haven't had an American first agenda for 2 years now.
We didn't have an America first agenda during Trump.
We kind of did.
Nah.
Not,
we talked about this
not
last
as
time.
much as we wanted, but we kind of did, right? All right, so
only the illusion of America first.
you know what though? I had for 4 years. My pocketbook was good. I was happy, able to buy a house.
Trump didn't do any of that
second
for you.
house, right? No, he didn't do anything for it. I couldn't buy the house today that I'm living in now. I could not. It's not possible.
Why?
Inflation, and our pay has not gone up, right? So inflation has caused a lot of crap, right? This inflation is policy driven, and I understand the policies were put in place by Trump, but the
Policy at the Fed.
the policies were put in place in the beginning by Trump, but they were also tried to be canceled not too far into the distant future by Trump, right? I'm not a Trump lover. I think he's a loudmouth asshole. I do. But I think he was what we needed. I think he was the right amount of crazy to keep other superpowers in the world at bay. I think Biden has no balls. I think he has no spine. I think he has no balls, no care for anybody else in this world. That's it.
He cares about his son.
And Ukraine. but not in this case, right? So, what are things we can do to change it? In all honesty, what are things we can do to change this? Other than elect better leaders, which I don't know why we even call them leaders, elect better peers people that have our best interests at heart, people that are going to fight for us manufacturing here in the United States.
Nobody currently sitting in a position of power in the United States government is ever going to champion a making stuff in America again, or a defending our own borders, or a stop interventionism in other countries. Nobody sitting in government right now is going to do that. It's just like with raising the interest rates. Hold on. It's just like raising the interest rates. We do not have a Paul Volcker. No one has the balls to do that now.
But we need it. We need it. We need to find the right person to do it, right?
They don't exist in government.
Yeah, they don't want to run for government, right? All the people that want what's best for us are working normal jobs, doing what's right in life. You know, they're paying attention to their family, right? That's the horrible thing about it. Is that's what, you know, I get there's a lot of duties as president, but we need a working president. You know, we need somebody that has, you know, that's had a normal job, a 9 to 5, right?
Well,
term limits for Senate.
Politicians were never supposed to be careers.
No, it wasn't.
A stint in politics was supposed to be a term or two, and then you go back to your job. I mean,
well, George Washington didn't start off as a politic.
The founding fathers were lawyers and journalists, and you know, they had other professions. One of them ran a printing press and had a newspaper. I mean, it was a part-time duty to serve your nation and give back to your.
And that's the thing, is to serve the nation. You said a key word right there. Serve the nation.
But now all it is self-serving.
Self-service, right? Nancy Pelosi gets into office. She is beyond rich.
200 million, I think. 20 million.
How?
Insider trading.
She's been in office for years, and she keeps getting voted in. I don't know if they're not running somebody against it, or everybody there is just okay with the feces all over the street.
Yeah, look at her district.
The needles everywhere. You know, the promise of free money. The promise that is something I think that we should pull out of politics. You should, if you are on government assistance, and this is going to be a very, very unpopular opinion, and I apologize, but
we
if
do
you're
not
on
apologize
government
on this show.
All right, I don't apologize.
We are unapologetic.
I'm unapologetic. If you are on a government assistance, you should not have the right to vote. That's it, flat out.
Yeah.
Because you have your best interests at heart. And if Nancy Pelosi or Joe Schmo wants to run and say, hey, we're going to make sure you're taken care of. We're going to make sure, you know, you're homeless. We're going to make sure you're taken care of. Who are you going to vote for? You're going to vote for the guy that says, get up, go get a job, do what's right. Or you're going to vote for somebody that says, hey, we're just going to give this to you. That's bribery.
Yeah.
And they haven't called it out?
It's
in how many
giving
years?
people things for votes. That's
ever since Social Security, any type of social program we've had has not been called out for that. Why?
Because politicians are very good at playing on people's emotions, much like they are good at playing.
But now that everybody knows, hey, this should be a stop. Why aren't we talking about this more? Other than being smeared on Facebook, YouTube, and all this stuff. Other than being shut down because of these views, these far right views. I'm not a far right guy.
Well,
I'm a libertarian. I am a libertarian.
Now that you said you're not,
I believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I really do. I think that the government should keep their damn hands out of my pocketbook.
If they kept their hands out of your pocketbook, they wouldn't have the resources to go and play God in Ukraine in the first place.
That's true.
If they didn't have the revenue that was created from us, they wouldn't be able to do any of this interventionism and overseas wars and all the shit that we did in the sandbox for the last 20 years. Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. All of these things have been on a checklist for a very long time, and none of that would have been possible if we would have just been able to remove our energy. So that as typically is always my answer.
All right, so let's get off this topic. It's making me irritated. I don't know if you can tell. Sorry, guys. What are the things we can do as individuals that we can tell our audience? What can we do to change this, to stop this cycle of abuse by people in power? right? The cycle of the media propaganda that they feed us on a daily basis. If you didn't watch the news at all and you saw it one day, you'd say, hey, what the hell are they talking about? But if you watch it every single day, you'd start to believe them. You really do. Whether it's COVID, whether it's vaccines, whether it's China, whether it's Ukraine, you're going to believe them. What do we do as an individual? What would you do?
The same thing that I do and advocate for doing for a long time. It's just removing your energy, right? You don't like the politicians that are making the choices for you? Stop voting for them. You don't like the choices between the 2 or 3 parties that exist? Don't vote for any of them. I did not vote in 2020.
You know, I for the last couple of months, I have always disagreed with you on that. The closer and closer that we come to this and watching what's going on, and I'm talking to everybody out there, I do believe if we remove our energy from everything, there's a way for it to collapse. There's a way for us to get better. There is a way for humanity to reign. There's a way for liberty to show back up in life. Stop voting. Stop participating in this garbage. I'm not talking about on a local level. Go to your school boards. Tell your school boards what you want them to teach your kids. If you don't want them to teach your kids certain things, don't let them. Right? Don't let them. Don't be violent. Make your voices heard. Speak out about it. Vaccine. The vaccine passports. If you don't want to be vaccinated, don't get us
banned.
Why? If you don't want the vaccine,
the V word.
Yeah. If you don't want to get the vaccine, speak up. Say something. Right? Don't be violent by any means. Say something. Stand up. Get involved. Right?
I think the COVID thing is a little different because there are so many people that are concerned about speaking up and the repercussions of speaking up, that it kind of, brings us back to some self-censorship thing that we've talked about before, right? You kind of start watching what you're going to say, but I am less and less concerned about what Washington and some dude 3,000 miles away is doing than I am concerned about what my own city council and school board is doing.
Those local ones get involved, talk to people, get to know people, understand what's going on locally. Locally actually has more power than federally. Right?
If you're moving
it really does
from federal systems and start getting things locally, you empower the people around you.
Because you can't have a blanket coverage of everybody in the United States. We got 340 million people in the United States now. Every individual is different. Everybody thinks differently. We should be okay with that. Let's talk it out on an individual basis, on an individual location. When you start saying 340 million people, you follow these rules. That's not right. Right?
What is good for Maine is not good for California. What is good for San Diego is not good for Redding. What is good for, Shasta is not good for Lake Shasta.
I wrote something down here that I'd like to read. So, if we are supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the brave, but with COVID and what's going on in the world, why are we not acting like it?
I think
where was that lost? Or was that part of our, and I'm going to segue into the simulation here, was that lost or is that part of our programming to grow out of it?
Grow out of what?
That heartfelt being brave. We're free, we're brave, we stand up for what's right.
Does it take more bravery to say that we're not going to put our energy in this any longer and let however the cards fall?
True bravery is different in every scenario, right?
I think it's more brave of a nation in the position as ours to say, you know what, this is not our fight. This does not have anything to do with us. This does not benefit our citizens in any way whatsoever.
What about the Uyghur Muslims in China?
We were just talking about Russia and Ukraine. There are atrocities that are being committed across the globe.
There's atrocities and slavery going across the world right now. We don't see it because we're sitting over here yelling about our own problems here with race and white people are bad and black people are being killed. And, we're fighting over here about that, right? But How do we fix that?
You keep us distracted, bickering amongst ourselves, and we never go after the true enemy. We never go after the true person, the true group of individuals that are.
I think that's key. I think that's key.
It comes back to energy. It comes back to energy. Why should I put my energy into hating my neighbor when my neighbor and I can collectively have our energy broadcasted out to something greater?
Yeah.
The power of voting with your wallet, like what we were talking about. Stop buying shit from China that you don't need to impress people that don't care. Actually, you're purchasing it with fiat that you don't have. You're going into debt to buy that stuff too, right?
Yeah.
This whole idea of keeping up
If you
with
don't
the
have the
Joneses.
cash on hand, don't buy it. Stop going into debt. I know a lot of people, they go into debt because they see something, they've got to have it. Stop doing that. Just seriously, just get by, save your money. Well, I guess savings doesn't really fucking matter anymore.
No one is incentivized to do any of that, dude. No one's incentivized to save.
Right now, saving doesn't matter. Let the guy cost them inflation. Saving, you're losing money.
Yeah.
Buy assets. That's something I've learned pretty recently. Buy assets. Buy any type of appreciating asset or an asset that stays at the same value.
You mean like NFTs?
No, NFTs that's digital assets that anybody can own. You just own the rights to it, so nobody can use it.
Yeah, but dude, I just bought a house next to Snoop Dogg.
For what was it? 400 grand? I think it was 400 grand. Someone bought a house next to Snoop Dogg.
Like that's an asset, right?
That's a simulation. That is totally a simulation.
Uh-oh. That's actually how I wanted to go from the Ukraine thing, right? We're starting to see all of these videos come out, and then we're starting to find out that they're from air shows from 2014 or from Syria in 2020, and like all of these videos are getting called fakes. There's been a huge concern about individuals that are in the limelight, like Joe Rogan, for example, or Barack Obama, right? These kind of people have literally said every single word in existence in the English language multiple times over and over with different influxes in their voice, starting sentences, ending sentences, right? Now that we're doing this, my voice is being recorded. It can be potentially synthesized. We're only a few years away from a deep fake, a true deep fake.
Oh, I got something for you guys, a deep fake right here.
Well, it's like how certain can we be that that the president of Ukraine is actually still in Kiev?
We can't.
He's doing this selfie.
Photoshop is really good.
You could have you could have a green screen as a backdrop. Yeah. I mean, Bo Jiden does his little announcements from.
And as we keep going, we will be getting a green screen here, so we can do some.
I don't know. We were thinking about doing a little bit of that. If you guys think that's a good idea, let us know down in the comments.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you want to see some weird stuff from us. Not that weird, okay? Don't get your minds out of the gutter. If you want to see some stuff, give us some comments.
We'd like to maybe throw some of the information up behind us, or a different backdrop or something. So this is a work in progress. This is a project after all. So bear with us. But
we named it the project. Right?
One of the original things that we kind of got going on this was what is a simulation? Are we in one now? Is this a better version than the Matrix ever could have possibly been?
Yeah, the layman's terms is if you've seen the Matrix movies, you would know what a simulation is. Are we really even here? Is what you see, hear, touch, smell, all six of our five senses, are those real? Or are those electrical impulses, which we actually know they are electrical impulses in our brain, but are they controlled by us, or was it a written program? That stuff, this is the kind of stuff that interests me. We'll kind of nerd out on it a little bit. Sorry if it's getting boring. We're going to nerd out on it.
It's the second time you've apologized. I'm keeping track.
I'm not sorry, but we're going to nerd out on it. How's about that?
No, it's, it is something that I have a hard time believing, to be honest, because
that we're in the simulation or not in a simulation.
Yeah, that we're not, right? Like I have control over whether or not.
So you think we're in a simulation?
I do not. I don't know what I think.
All right, so I think
that I want you to explain. I think that I want
devil's
you to explain
advocate
a
with
little
me
bit here.
All right, so I don't know which way to believe, right? I do. I'm not religious. I do believe in intelligent design. What are we doing here? Why are we here? Age-old questions, stuff like that. Why are some people poor? Why are some people rich? What Why are some people have that drive and some people don't have that drive, right? How could it be possible?
Like a hyper successful type A personality.
Yeah. Why is he different than this guy? Was it a programming, which is our DNA? Technically, our DNA is a program. It's a code.
It's a code.
Right? Who wrote that code? Was it written by whoever wrote the code for the DNA of every living thing in this world? Every non-living thing in this world has a strand of code. Now, if it has a strand of code, wouldn't that say somebody wrote it?
Somebody or something.
Somebody or something. Intelligent design, right? Now, a lot of people would say, okay, that's God. He created this. He gave us free will. He did this. So that's who could be in charge, right? Well, what if it's not? What if it's just a computer programming running to see how it worked, right? And we're 5 steps removed. A computer program to, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the movie Inception, right? You dive deep and deep and deep and deep and deep into dreams is what it would be. But even beyond that,
there would be. Okay.
How do our brains work?
Yeah,
electrical impulses.
There would be flaws. Right? Like with physics, for example.
Well, our physics are written into it, right? So if and this is not necessarily something I believe, but if our physics are written into this, and I could see how this would work. If the physics are written in as a program, the program runs. What we know as time is, we know time as a linear scale.
Progression.
What if the time we knew now was literally only a spark on a transistor in a chip?
Just a snap in time.
Just a snap in time. My finger snapping takes too long for this spark of these billions of years on this rock in the vacuum, floating around, nuclear fusion ball number 2, right? What if that was literally just a spark that happened so fast it played out right? It didn't have enough time to glitch. Now, the spark keeps lasting longer as time goes on for us, right? So 100 years from now, 100,000 years from now, 100 million years from now, now that spark has become farther down the progression of programming.
Is that spark the entirety of the timeline? Is it from
So that
beginning?
Spark could have started in the beginning of what we would call the Big Bang. Machine turned on. Boom. Spark happens. We see the spark. Well, we didn't see it, obviously. I'm not that old. But, the spark happens. It goes, it's plays out for however hundreds of million years we've had. Oh, it's in the front of my face. So it's played out for hundreds of millions of years, or however long we've been here, billions of years. I gotta pee. We're gonna take a break. Sorry about that, guys. All right, welcome back. Sorry about that. I had to relieve myself.
Little intermission there.
Yeah, normal intermission. Normal human things, right? Or normal human programming, as we're talking about the simulation here. So I think we were talking about the spark of life.
We were talking about the time, right? Time, it could be 80 years to me, is 1 second in the program.
It could be less than that. Yeah, correct. It could be literally a spark. Time frame doesn't matter in a computer program. You can make it think that an entire life was born and died, snap of a finger, right? And that's the spark.
Well, but this program had to start at some point.
That's the question, right? Where did it start? Who did it start from? I think a lot of religion's based on that, right? The
coming of Christ.
The coming of Christ, the 7 days of building, the world that we know, building the universe and stuff like that. Do I call it Christianity? I personally, I don't. I respect anybody that does. I have nothing against them. I'm just putting it out there.
The majority of religions are centered around some sort of Messiah, that if you repent or say sorry enough or live your life a certain way, that he will eventually save you. He or she
Yeah.
will eventually save you. Right?
Yes.
So I don't think that has much to do with the beginning as much as it has to do with your life, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
what you're in control of. But that's what's at question right now, right? What are we actually in control of? Am I actually picking this pin up right now, or did the program that something or someone wrote
If
told
it's
me
a
to pick
smart
this
enough
up?
program, it lets you. It's free will.
But
right?
what about like dropping something?
What about it?
Right. So if I go to pick this pen up and write something and then drop it, I did not mean to do that. Actually, I actually didn't mean to. I was going to just drop it on the floor.
Physics is physics, right? If physics was written in correctly, because we are at a limit with physics. There's only certain things we can do.
But if I'm attempting to grab something strong enough to bring it from point A to point B,
That's free will.
right? I know
That's
not to
your body.
grip this thing and snap it.
That's your body adjusting to that particular. Could that be a digital pencil right there, or pen, or whatever you want to call it? Could that be digital? Could that be the code written for that? I mean, it's crazy to think. I know, tinfoil hats all around, right? But is it possible that it's true?
I
And
think
if you say it is possible, I would agree with you on that. But it's hard to believe.
Well, much like a favorite show of mine, Mythbusters, they used to decide whether something was plausible. They would have plausible as a reason, right?
Yeah.
So if you conducted an experiment and tried to have a control and then have 3 certain ways that it's going to go down,
Yeah.
you're trying to take into account certain variables that we can't control. So, again, like if there's a variable, the whole premise of the Matrix is that there are variables that the program can't control, right? That's the deja vu, that's seeing a cat, the black cat, what have you. But, the movie was created by a human that has flaws as well. So maybe that human within the program is
supposed to be
designed
flawed.
to have flaws.
Yes. I mean, and that would make sense in that we're all created differently from our genes to, and I'm not talking about the ones we wear, I'm talking about genetics. We're all created completely different, right? We all have our own free will, but is that a free will that we came with, programmed with? I know it's getting a little deep in the weeds, and it sounds like I believe in the simulation, which I don't know if I do or not. That's a very satisfying sound. We should do ASMR videos right here,
No. None of that. Continue.
Slurping and chewing stuff, and hey, who knows? That might be part of the simulation.
Well, okay, so that's something we were talking about earlier with VR, right? You can see it, you can hear it, you can't smell it, and it changes people's vertigo when they're playing those games.
Now, okay, about the simulation and VR. You dive deep into VR, and VR is getting much better. VR is the graphics are only getting better, right? So if the graphics are getting better and one day we won't be able to differentiate between real life and VR, what happens to our bodies here on this earth, or what we think this earth is? Are we uploaded to the cloud and now we become a digital version of ourselves? Are we already there?
What?
Right? And was it what are those games that you start at the very beginning, like Rust? There's a video game called Rust. You start at the very beginning, you have nothing. You build everything from something, and you continue your life, right? I don't know if they allow you to have children or anything like that, but if you've built your entire life, you have an AI child. That AI child grows, has an AI child.
Yeah.
This is a rabbit hole, I know. This is a total crazy, whacked out rabbit hole. I get it. but there's
allow
no
it.
way to disprove it.
I'll allow it.
You disprove it for me. I'd love to see somebody. If you have a disprove of this, please comment. I would love to see the comments on this one. This one's always bothered me. The fact that there's no way to disprove it.
Well,
Nobody's seen the other side.
again, plausible deniability, right? That's why I have a problem with the term atheist as opposed to an agnostic, right? An atheist is an absolutist, says it does not exist.
Agnostic says, hey, it might, right?
I'm agnostic when it comes to aliens.
I'm agnostic when it comes to I'm totally not. I'm a believer in aliens. I'm a believer. If our universe is really as big as it is, and there's more universes on top of that, an infinite number of universes.
Are those universes part of the simulation?
That's the problem, right? Is it it's got to be a finite amount. Nothing goes forever, or does it? Right? If it's a simulation,
if something goes forever, that means it's not done yet, which means it's not finished. Are programs finished?
Programs usually do finish unless it's something we can't comprehend. Unless it's a loop.
Give me an example.
A loop.
So like
a program in a loop.
So like a computer game.
You know how history is always doomed to repeat itself. It's just a loop, right? That's what we see every day. People don't believe it. Oh, history's different. No, it's always doomed to repeat itself. We forget history and it keeps coming back. Well, if the simulation is a loop plane, every spark is a new world. Every spark is a new Travis. Every spark is a new David. Every spark is a new Pac-Man over there. Every spark is, a 10 billion year, crusade with slight tweaks.
Are those sparks all happening at the same time or one after another?
I would say one. Yeah. Ask me a question I don't know
okay,
anything about.
The only reason I ask is
because it could be either or, right?
It could be, but if they're happening one after another, at some point in time, the consequences of what happened before is going to have...
Now, how do you know that, simple things like Biden being elected isn't a glitch? How do you know that? How do you know that the glitch isn't the everyday things we see every day that we just, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Like atrocities?
Atrocities.
Like
Mao, Hitler.
Like Russia and Ukraine?
How do you know those aren't glitches that weren't designed to be in there, or those were programmed in there, and as they progress, the programming progressed with it? To say, okay, well, this side of the program's stronger than this side of the program, but we're going to keep putting it back in there just for knowledge of whoever, whatever, has designed it, right? So if you get into a VR goggle of today, it doesn't look real. But if you get into a VR goggle 30 years from now, I can guarantee you this is what it looks like.
Yeah, but
if you have a VR suit 30 years from now, this is what it feels like. We've got 5 senses. Smell, taste, feel, hear, and I forget the last one. And then the 6th sense, if you've seen the movie, I see dead people.
Sight.
Right? But there's 5 senses, whatever they may be, And then those are programmed in. And then there's always people, oh, I see dead people, I hear ESP, blah, blah. Is that real? Is that really a 6th sense? No, I think we're programmed with the 5.
Well, so you mean like paranormal stuff?
Yeah, I think that is
ghosts.
Jokes. Yeah, I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in evil, but not.
So what happens
like
when people die in the program?
That spark is flickered out. I know it's a horrible way of looking at life. People are always like, you got nothing to look forward to after life. And religion is a fantastic thing for a lot of people because it helps them be good through life because human nature is not good.
It's incentive.
Human nature is a very selfish thing.
But it's still a choice. See, I think that's the difference.
It is still a choice. It is still a choice.
One of the big differences between virtual reality and real life is that choices have real consequences here as opposed to in a video game, right?
But are they real consequences in here?
Yeah, like if I commit a crime, I'm going to go to jail.
If you commit a crime in Grand Theft Auto, you go to jail.
If you commit a crime in Grand Theft Auto, it depends on how good you are, but
And
your stars
you respawn.
increase,
All they have
and you
to
get in a
do-
helicopter, and then you cheat code to get a bunch of rocket launchers and
Okay.
you kill a bunch of cops until you get to 5
Now
stars.
imagine that 2,000 years from now. 2,000 years from now.
I don't think humans,
That could have been our past.
I don't think humans are going to be around that much longer.
With what's going on, probably not.
2,000 years. I think
Probably
that's,
not.
So, like Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett talk about this all the time. More so Charlie Munger, but about how we're kind of past the peak of human existence.
Mm-hmm.
Incentive to replace yourself with birth rates, etc. The big push about how much carbon every human being is, and the best thing you can do for the planet is just not have kids, right? All this kind of stuff. But
When in fact they're entirely wrong. The best thing you can do is populate. Populate, innovate, populate. The best innovations come from larger populations. People thinking together, people working together, people doing the right thing together. That is what innovation is based on.
well, my point of
Right.
bringing that up would be to see how the certain policies in certain areas affected people's ability to have children. Like a conversation that my wife and I have all the time is wanting to have another child. I really want to have another kid. I think it would be awesome to have a third child. She's done for a lot of different reasons. One of the main conversations that we always have is, or one of the main reasons is, we don't earn enough. We're not well enough off to have another child. So there's like a social construct based on,
And that's selfish.
well,
Just like everything else in life, that's selfish.
well, it's an incentive from our society to say things like that, right?
Yeah.
Our society incentivizes thinking like that, right? If you don't make enough currency from this one job, then
One thing that I've heard a long time ago from a doctor when my wife was pregnant and she was worried about what she should eat and stuff like that to produce milk and stuff like that. They said that you would be surprised. Starving moms in third world countries still produce enough milk to feed their children. You're gonna make it.
Yeah.
Whether it's not exactly how you chose to make it, whether you can buy that brand new shirt or that brand new microphone or that brand new camera, these things that we're using, doesn't matter. Population is key. I don't think the population is near what it should be.
well, I mean, we have a lot of precursory precedents rather in the history that we can look back at and see. Things like China's one child policy. People in Japan being so fearful of the dating scene that their population is actually decreasing just because they're not.
Our population is not at replacement rate. I think we're 1.8. Last I checked, it was like 1.8 in the United States. And
The
you
majority
need
of Western
two kids
first
per
world
parent
countries,
to keep us afloat, right?
the majority of Western first world countries are not replacing themselves.
Correct.
Less than
Correct.
replacement.
But you've got places in Africa, you've got places in South America that are way beyond that. They're replacing themselves at a much higher rate, which is keeping the population up. And in turn, those may be the most innovative states 100 years from now.
Well, but
They might be.
That would be by design, though.
Would that be by design?
Well, it would be part of. It would have to be part of the program.
There was a game I played. It was a stupid game. Actually, I forget the name. It's an app, right? That I
You
played
talking about a
years
mobile
ago.
video game, man?
No. It
Clash
was
of
a game
Clans?
I played years ago. And what you do is you create a virus, and you see how fast it spreads. I named my virus Obamacare, right? So just so when it says Obamacare is killing really fast, whatever. That was a joke, right? And
Wait, when was this game? When
this
was this game made? 2020?
No, it was back in the 2010s, 2008, 2010s. I forgot the name of the game. My buddy Joe knows. He got me onto it. And I would play the game, and it would show you how fast you can spread diseases and stuff like that across the world. and it was pretty legit, right?
It's a very weird game, dude.
If the disease wasn't, well, the goal was to kill off the world, right? To conquer the world with your disease, right? You pick the disease, you pick the contagiousness, you pick the response times and stuff like that. And some of the goal was to see how fast you can contain it. The other goal was to see how fast you can, out-contain it, right? So zombie apocalypse.
Outbreak or containment.
God, I got to remember that game. It was a good name. It was a good game.
It was called Plague Inc.
Was it Plague? Yes, Plague Inc. It was fun. It was fun to play.
Nice bowl pack. Nice bowl pack, man.
It was fun to play because you can see a simulation of a virus and how it's going to play out before it happens, just by the contagiousness of it, the incubation period of it. Because if you put a long incubation period on it, but a short contagion on it, it lasts longer. That's like COVID. You've got a 5-day incubation period, 5 to 10 day incubation period, but you're contagious those 5 to 7 days. Well, that's the problem. As compared to Ebola, you're contagious almost immediately as soon as you get it. So it's very easy to contain.
Okay.
So it was pretty neat. That's a simulation.
I mean, there's a lot of video games that are simulations. I mean, Sims.
Yeah, our buddy Matt, he plays
Sims.
the flight simulation in VR, and he's got this cockpit setup, and it's real. It's dead on real. You look in this thing, and you're like, I'm flying a plane, and you've got all the altimeter and everything like that. So if that's where we're at in our simulation, if this isn't a simulation, are we just going to dive into another simulation of a simulation?
Well, but that's what I was asking earlier. Does this program actually end, or is it open-ended? Right? It hasn't not finished yet. Because if it was already pre-written, that would mean that it would have to end, right? In order for the program to be complete.
Unless it was played on a loop. Right? The simulation ends with an ice age, with dinosaurs ruling. Next, after the ice age melts, dinosaurs rule. This world could be on a loop forever.
Hold on. You believe in dinosaurs, man?
I think they were written into code. I think the fossils were there to give us oil.
Oh.
I think the fossils were there to see how far we can progress. I think the water lines and the carbon dating is there, as far as we can tell now, to give us the resources we need to play out what we're playing out. Now, I'm not a tinfoil hat
Yes, you are.
conspiracy theorist. I'm just curious if it's possible.
We might not ever know. I don't think there is a big push these days to make it seem more real and more more viable and tangible. That's, hard assets like what you were talking about earlier. That's something that I really like about, precious metals, is being able to physically hold them and see them. It's a lot better than the paper that we all have in our wallets. And
so that could have been part of the programming. There's so much gold, so much silver.
In order to get those precious metals, you actually have to have input, right? You have to actively seek out some sort of mining operation in order to get this out of the ground, drilling exports, getting to the oil and fossil fuels in the first place, right? But
absolutely, yeah.
There's also this notion that if I had the opportunity right now where I could just plug myself in and, now I have a feeding tube, and it may look like I get to go to whatever restaurant I choose and I'm having this delicious, juicy steak, and now I just think that I'm enjoying myself at this place, but actually I'm just in my cubicle and I have this little tube hooked up to myself.
One thing that makes me think it is not a simulation is, and no offense to anybody, but there is some ugly people in the world.
Ooh, but who are you?
I'm an ugly person. I'm not pretty. I'm manly, I guess, because I got a beard.
Beauty's in the eye of the
But
beholder.
I act like I'm a big softie. I'm a big teddy bear. Yeah, see, whatever. I'm a big softie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really am. I get aggressive, but I'm not by any means confrontational, aggressive, anything like that.
I get aggressive, but I'm not aggressive.
But there is, if it was a simulation and each person was able to choose their avatar, we'd see a lot of different looking avatars, a lot of better looking avatars, right?
What?
Unless there's a program specifically stated for every one model, there's 10 non-models, right? And then, okay, your health, the food you choose to eat, the free will that was either given to you or that you were born with is, if that's part of the simulation, then you are doing that to yourself, right?
I don't know. I think that's a super dangerous notion, right? Because once we start telling people that they don't have control over the way,
No,
that
but they do. What I'm saying is they do have control, but they're given the option, right? You're given an option, not at birth, right? Because you're just, you're useless at birth. Kids are useless, right? Who came first, adult or the kid? If it's not a simulation, the kid would have had to come first. If it is a simulation, the adult was there to take care of the kid from the beginning. Because the adult was a program added in to keep it going.
What if there was a baby in some other species and they were raised by some other species, and then we, if you do the whole caveman Homo sapien route, then
Okay, well, the caveman Homo sapien route, that would hunt and gather.
At some point that...
Find shelter, survive. Had to have been a baby at one point, too.
I mean, that's what all nature does.
The chicken and the egg.
Procreate, find shelter, and survive.
If the simulation is true, the chicken came first. If the simulation is not true, the egg came first.
I don't know.
Those are some solid questions. Like, where did it come from? I'd love to know.
It all had to start somewhere. Again, whether it's
Hey, Pac-Man, are we living in a simulation?
No.
No. There's a definitive answer right now. You could shut us up with one word. I love it.
Well,
I love it. Yeah.
It is something to really question, because I think it gets kind of dangerous when people kind of fall in that rut of, oh well, if I'm genetically predisposed to like a certain thing.
I didn't say genetically predisposed. I said genetically predisposed for free will.
No. If I'm living in a program, I'm not actually deciding to pick this pencil up. The program did it for me.
Unless you're AI.
I'm AI?
Unless we're all AI.
Did AI create the program in the first place then?
Somebody created the AI.
I mean,
and we've been learning, and we've been doing our own thing for generations and generations and generations. And if that's the case, you picking that pencil up was a free choice. That was you.
So I have certain abilities to make my own choices, but it's all within the construct of a program.
Now, like, that construct of that program could have been well written to where you are you. You are able to choose those things. Right? You can choose A or B. When I was a kid, I used to write Commodore games. The games I played were Commodore games, right? When we were young, I was 8 years old. I used to program Commodore games. There's no graphics to them, right? It was
Commodore games.
Yeah, you know what a Commodore is? I'm much older than you. Not much older, but it's a keyboard. You plug a tape recorder into it, and there's this huge book, and you type in if this then this, if this then this, if this then this. And then when you finally go to play the game, you play the tape, it'd go back through the tape, and you'd pick, okay, you're in it, and it's just words. You're in a room. Off to your left is a door. In front of you is a window. Off to your right is a key. What do? Well, if I pick the key up, I can go through that door to my right. Now that'll take me to another quadrant, which takes me to another quadrant, which takes me... Now there's thousands of different ways you could have played this. You had to write the game so you kind of get to know where, things are.
So there are limitations.
There can't be... So if you wrote the game and I tried to play it, I wouldn't know what the fuck was going on, right? You could have made it left to this one, left to that one, a small door here. I could have gone through that small door. The key you put in that room might not have worked. I would have had to go through another room. And it was literally just that. That was a simulation. To me, that was a full-on simulation. Hey, I wrote this. I get to go through and make decisions for an electrical impulse happening in this Commodore. And it was a Commodore 16, I think it was. Anybody old watching this will know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, that blew my mind when I was a kid. Because
Did you have to finish the program in order for it to run?
I did. It took me hours to write it.
You couldn't just leave the program 99% complete. It had to be finished. You had to...
Now, at the end of the program, this one wasn't smart enough, but at the end of the program, if you were able to cycle it, starts over again. Climate change.
From the beginning.
From the beginning. Okay, that brings us into climate change, right? If the climate has designed to do a full 180, what's next? Ice age? If an ice age happens, wipes out what we know as humans, there's another species that comes along. Last time it was dinosaurs, got wiped out by the ice age. The next ice age wipes out the humans. There's another species, and it could literally be an experimentation.
Yeah, but we can just put a jacket on.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
If it starts to
if
get
the
too
entire
cold,
world
just
freezed over, we'd die.
Just put your gloves on.
Entire world freezed over, sun explodes. Whatever.
Whoa. You believe in the sun, man?
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's a ball of nuclear fusion, and we're on a rock floating around in a vacuum around it.
No, so we play a lot with this idea. It is kind of one of our favorite topics.
I think we'll call it quits on this one, though, for today.
Well, so hold on. There's one more thing that I wanted to get into, and I think this will wrap things up a little nicely. We talked a little bit about Canada's future ideas with individuals' bank accounts.
Yep.
I got a feeling there was a couple of Western countries that were probably taking notes.
Yep.
Wanting to implement certain similar policies elsewhere. And I think, this push away from cash and this push towards a cashless society and to get into all of these currencies.
Digital currencies.
There is one final step, I think. And China is, I believe, going to be the first one to implement something like this. But their central bank is going to completely digitize their existing currency.
SWIFT. They're trying to digitalize the yuan. Yen, yuan.
Is that through SWIFT or is that through the central bank?
Through SWIFT.
So SWIFT has to be owned and operated by...
45% is operated in China.
But it's not owned and operated.
The other company that you read out what the acronym was for is 50 to 55%. 45% is owned by Chinese banks.
So only in name is it a society for worldwide interbank financial telecommunication.
Only in name. It's controlled by China. We use it here in the United States. Russia uses it. Ukraine uses it. Everybody, that's how we transfer. That's their Bitcoin. That's how we transfer funds from everything.
Your hand is in your face.
Oh, sorry.
The idea that they can digitize an entire currency is only based on their ability to attach it to some form of blockchain.
Correct.
Right? they wouldn't have the ability to do something like this.
No,
if
the infrastructure is not there for that. No,
the infrastructure still isn't there.
no.
Okay, so this is
They'd
a couple
have to
years
have
out.
server farms that just aren't built yet.
Because I think the whole idea behind a central bank digital currency is their ability to cut out the middleman, which is the bank.
Which is the bank.
Instead of me having to go to Wells Fargo or fill in the blank.
And this all came up in 2018 or 2008 when the banks were
Getting bailed out.
doing their thing, and the people stopped and said, "There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way."
I don't think it's a better way by any means. I think it's an easier way for a select few to control many.
What is that? What's the saying? The roads to hell are paved in good intentions.
Yeah.
There was a good intention to say, "Hey, let's cut out the banks. I can send you money digitally. You can cash it out anytime you want directly. I can send you a Bitcoin right now."
How is that any different?
Am I going to? Fuck you. I don't like you enough.
How is that any different than welfare, though?
What do you mean?
If you are only allowed to earn in a certain digital currency, then you don't really have the freedom.
Well, the problem with digital currency is actually, it fluctuates more. It's not as stable as the dollar, but as we're finding out, the dollar is not too stable right now. Neither is any other country's fiat. It's not very stable. There's no basis to it. It's just an agreed upon thing that, okay, you believe it's worth this much.
Agreed upon by who?
Agreed upon by our betters.
By our peers?
By our betters.
You mean the people running the shit?
The people running the show, who think they're our betters, who think they know more than us, which in layman's terms, some of them do.
So if you have the ability to say, hey, David, you live in a country that I now have control over your complete finances. I can see literally every penny you've ever spent. I can also tell that you opted for extra cheese on your burger last night by looking at your receipt, right?
Yes.
What makes your amount in your bank account real if they have the ability to turn it off tomorrow?
It doesn't. It's real is what we see. This is real. Or in the simulation, this is what we see as real.
Is it real?
This glass is real. My tea-up cup with our logo on it, this is real. If you guys want to buy one, let us know. They're cool cups. Got the Louis Vuitton look to it,
We're thinking
Not
about
really,
doing
but
some merch.
We'll start doing some merch later,
see.
but that's besides the fact.
Well, what we were getting at was...
I'm going to do an ASMR.
Yeah.
That was hot.
I hate it.
That was spicy.
Enjoy it. We need to be able to have some sort of faith, right? And this is what I was talking about earlier. It gets very dangerous when people think that they don't have control over the decisions that they're making. Incentive goes out the window. Incentive to be productive, incentive to be, kind to your fellow humans, incentive to not break the law.
You know
That all
what?
goes out the
There
window.
is incentive for that, right? It's selfishness, though. When I drive down the street and I stop at every single stop sign, we've got 3 stop signs down this main road right here. When I stop at every single stop sign, even if the guy across from me stops a little bit later than me, I always wave him over. Makes me feel good. That's my selfishness, right?
Is he to your right? Because he has the right of way.
No, he's to my left sometimes.
You should've
Because
gone
they're
first.
usually coming across and they want to make a turn in front of me. But I let him go, right? I'm in usually my work van or my big truck, and it's like, okay, I'm going to go slower across the intersection than you. You're in a little tiny car. Just go ahead.
I mean, are you concerned about having your business number called and being complained about because you cut somebody off in a stop sign? Or are
No,
you doing
not
it
at all.
because-
Not at all. No. Most of the time, they'll flash their lights, and I said, I'll wave my hand, say, no, you guys go. You go, and then wave at them. That's just me, right? A lot of people don't do that.
Depends
Right.
depends on the situation, right? If you are to the right of me, you have the right of way, at least in America. So
That's true.
That's the way it should roll.
But I try to be friendly because it makes me feel good. Obviously, there is no selfless act. I think the only selfless act is life insurance, right? And even then, it makes you feel calm until you die.
Yeah.
So technically, is that really selfless or whatever? Or is that written into our programming or however it may be?
Well, but
But
being nice to somebody still has a form of tangibility to it, right? You have that interaction with somebody, you pull over on the side of the road to help somebody, right? These are all things that one would do if they want to give back or if they believe in karma or dharma or any one of those things. They have the ability to make those decisions throughout their day.
yeah.
Right? But if one is to believe that they are not in control of those certain aspects, then they will inevitably decide not to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that is, for me, one of my main things to think, to question whether it's not a simulation, right? Is because I'm having certain aspects of my life forced to be digital, right? Social media, for example, was supposed to bring everyone together and, rainbows and happy faces. And
It did at first, and then I was just tearing people apart.
Yeah, it's driven people further away, society further away. We're more awkward with each other in person. We don't know how to speak publicly.
It's because people are selfish, and they really do think the world revolves around them, and they don't think about the consequences of other people's feelings. They don't think about the consequences of the stuff they say. They don't think there's going to be any reaction, right? They're keyboard warriors.
Like consequences for their actions?
Keyboard warriors, right?
Well, you used to not be able to do that. When you would say something that offended somebody in their face, you usually got smacked. Or,
correct. And so you
outside
learn to, hey, maybe I shouldn't say that to their face. Maybe their point was either right or maybe their point was wrong, but we'll handle this next time.
Or maybe
right?
I should attempt to attack the idea instead of the individual.
Correct. That's gone. That's totally gone.
Why?
Because there's no physical harm in writing something on one of these.
Well, words are violence now. So
I don't believe that horse shit for 1 second, so don't get me started on that. Maybe we'll save that for another podcast. I think it's time to wrap it up. I think we've gone pretty far into the simulation. If you guys would like to hear more, comment on it. If you think it's boring, comment on it. Let us know. The simulation really interests me, and I think it really interests Travis. There's a lot more to be said about it.
I just think it's important to really just take a moment and step back and really attempt to critically think and decipher the information that we're being fed and the information that we quote unquote discover online. I think it's really important to not jump to conclusions. I think Bongino has a 3-day rule, so they'll just let it chill for a little bit and see if new facts come out or if the story changes. But I think we have to be much more vigilant.
I think he does. I think he with Bongino. I think he pushes people away because when he does get decisive on something, he's too decisive. There's no care, and I don't want that to be me. I would love for somebody to say, "Hey, you're wrong, David. Okay, get your ass on here or give me a call and tell me how I'm wrong." And I will correct myself. I have no problem if I was wrong about a date, if I was wrong about how this happened, if I was wrong.
Everything we're saying is being recorded, obviously. So
it's out there for everybody
consider this
to hear.
A record, right?
And I hope you guys have listened to this entire episode. I really do. This has been an interesting conversation for us. I'm really proud of it. I think it's going to get better from here. I think we're doing, what everybody should be doing. We need more conversations like this. We need people that agree on certain things, disagree on certain things. We need it. This is the discourse in life, and podcasts and video podcasts. That's the way. It really is the way. The way forward. We don't have those sit around the water cooler anymore talks, right? We're so isolated from one another all the time that it's refreshing to sit here with two of my best friends and chit chat and find out what you believe about a certain thing. It makes me think. A year ago, And you telling me to bring my energy out of voting and out of helping and, helping the Republican Party and stuff like that. I didn't believe you. After today's episode, I do. I'm like, it makes sense. It's like, I know it's not going to make a difference, just me. But if everybody out there watching this says, hey, I don't like the two-party system. If every single person in the United States did that today and the president was elected by 10 people, because you don't want to vote for a shit sandwich. You don't want to vote for, what would the options be? You've got a shit sandwich on one hand and you've got somebody you absolutely despise on the other hand. Just don't vote.
Yeah,
I mean just don't vote.
Sooner or later, the majority of the individuals are going to realize that nobody else is playing along with this shit.
Well, you've got Google, you've got Apple. Vote. Go out and vote. Make your voices heard. Well, what about the other voices? What about the little guys? What about the guys that don't think the same way that you think? What about the guys that don't think that we should be in a socialist utopia? What about the guys that do think that, right?
I don't think you should waste any time arguing with socialists. I think it's a complete waste of energy and a waste of time.
I think a socialist is somebody that does not know history.
Or they were taught in an American public school system.
or they were taught by a blue-haired...
Wow.
Yeah. I get it. And not all blue-haired people are bad. I'm not being racist against blue hair or being hateful against blue hair. One of my sons had blue hair for a while.
So
but it looked cool on him.
There are a few things that I would like to just kind of finish with. We are...
Take us out of here, Papa.
We are working on a website. It is going to launch today. You won't be seeing this for a couple of days, but we're going to launch this weekend, and it's just a landing page for us to start building on, so don't expect too much. However...
And yes, I have already linked the podcast to the Facebook page, the locals page, and stuff like that. I know every time you click on it, it says it's a coming soon. It will be coming soon.
Yeah, we are working on a few things to give us a little bit more structure and a little bit more foundational support. So, yeah, you can definitely hop over. By the time this video airs, it will be up, theunrefinedproject.com. And it'll be a place...
Hopefully we'll get it up tonight, tomorrow.
It'll be a place that we can, have some resources. We do talk a lot about a lot of things, and there are not all the time we have the ability to, bring up the sources or the things we're talking about. So we will definitely go back through this episode and pick a few key things and have that on our website. We're also doing... a little bit of a library section, what I would consider some required reading, and some other things. So, yeah, look forward to that, as well as...
And he's talking about required reading, not being preachy. You don't have to read it. Get the Cliff Notes, watch a video about it, learn about it.
No, fuck that. People don't read enough. We all need to start reading again.
Yes, I understand. George Orwell's 1984... That is a book worth reading.
You can find that on our website for more.
You can absolutely see what is going on right now in history with COVID and everything else that follows. You can find out, and it was written a long time ago. So you can find out that, okay, this has not been a new thing. It's been a progression through time to where we're at now. Just like everything else is a progression. Just like Hitler was a progression, right? He was in power for 10 years before he was able to get the Nazi party to other the Jews.
What does that have to do with our books? What does that have to do with our books?
I don't fucking remember.
Yeah.
But,
so, I just wanted to thank everybody for listening in. This has been an episode.
1984. That's the book.
This has been an episode of The Unrefined Project. And thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the flip side.
All right, you guys.